I'm starting to realize what I think this is all about. What I believe, in part, is going on here when it comes to Mayor Lucas talking about it yesterday on this show and addressing the fact that he is happy to welcome a certain number of illegal immigrants from Denver and New York City to Kansas City. I'm realizing that all the attention that he is getting from places like Fox News, I'm staring at an article here that has Mayor Lucas side by side with the Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey. I'm realizing that this is all very good for him. You know, we're sitting here wondering what it means for Kansas City and how this plays out for Kansas City in not a positive way, I will add. But I'm realizing for him, moving forward within the Democratic Party, this has actually been a good couple of days. I mean, you and I sit here and say, this is nuts. Kansas City's going to start welcoming in who knows how many illegal immigrants to lessen the burden on the hellscapes that have become Denver and New York City. For what? Why? Who's benefiting here? Certainly not everyday Kansas Cityans. And frankly, I think that Quentin Lucas politically is not benefiting. But remember, he's a lame duck. He can't run again. Where else is the mayor of Kansas City going to go politically? He could have been a true, moderate, old-school Democrat who actually ran on a platform that helped swing the state of Missouri maybe back to the middle, maybe made it once again a purple state. He had that capability. He's got that skill set politically, but he gave it up in 2020. He gave it up during the George Floyd protests, although he does get credit for not letting the plaza burn down, which apparently they wanted to do, and he said no. I have that on good authority. He told the police, no, stand strong. But still, a lot of mistakes during the George Floyd stuff. And then COVID. You know, listen to bozos like Rex Archer. I mean, yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Oh!
Boy, I love Thanksgiving.
Oh, what's the countdown to Thanksgiving there, Rex? 182 days and 70 or 7 hours? I'm sure he's got it somewhere on his calendar. But he listened to the most extremist individuals, locally and nationally, on COVID and on George Floyd. And for that, a guy who came in with very high hopes back in 2019 kind of lost the ability to potentially run a statewide campaign in Missouri. Could have done it, but gave it up. So now gets reelected, beats Clay Chastain, you know, which isn't really saying much. Clay's working on his latest parody song, is what I heard, by the way. And now he's looking at himself in his late 30s and saying, what's next? Emmanuel Cleaver's not going anywhere. And by the way, there is a lot of beef between Emmanuel Cleaver and Quentin Lucas. So the notion that Cleaver's going to retire, he's going to, you know, hand his seat off to Lucas, trust me, there's a lot of internal beef there that's not going to make that easy. So he's got to figure out what's next. And I think that's in very much a big part of what's been going on here over the last couple of weeks in this town with our mayor, who, listen, is a wildly bright man, whether you love him or you can't stand him. He's a very bright man, and, you know, he knows what he's doing. Now, let me rephrase that. He doesn't know what he's doing right now, but he knows what he's doing from the standpoint of there's a plan here to all this. There's a purpose to him being in Washington, D.C. last week and advocating for student debt relief, a.k.a. bailing out student loans for people who have no business getting their student loans bailed out. There's a reason that this week we find out that Kansas City is suddenly going to be opening up its arms, apparently, reportedly, we don't know how many, but going to be opening up its arms to illegal immigrants from Denver and from New York City. And I got to believe part of this is, yes, to end up on Fox News, yes, to end up with the Missouri Attorney General, you know, releasing statements on you, because there are people within the Democratic Party that will appeal to. There are people who are out there saying, you know, this guy, Quentin, we got to take a look at him for something. And, you know, if I'm Mayor Lucas, I'm also saying, hell, if Pete Buttigieg, or as Biden accidentally calls him sometimes, booty juice, as he gets set to, be the transportation secretary. You're Quinn Lucas. You're like, hey, I'm smarter. I've done more. I'm running a bigger city. Look at me. What about me? I'm over here. Give me a shot there, Pops. Come on. What do you say?
Come on, man.
That's what I think in large part is going on, because nothing else makes sense to me. Nobody in their right mind can listen to the conversation we had with the mayor yesterday, where I asked him how many illegal immigrants you're going to welcome in here, and I couldn't even get a number. I'm trying to understand it all from a political perspective, from a personal perspective, from an ambition perspective, and the only conclusion I can come to is that it's not about Kansas City. It's about ambition. You said the number that you're looking at for these folks, you're saying 50 is the number of people you're looking at, 50. Is that right, or did I misunderstand that?
I said it's more like 50 than 50,000.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I mean,
that's a big. Oh no! What does that mean then? 5,000.
Right.
I mean, you got to have a number though if you're going to run an operation like this, right? You got to have a number in mind.
I think that, no. What you're doing in Kansas City, this is why I said it's more like 50, is to say, yeah, we welcome individuals, right? The reason this is so cost intensive is because each person, wherever they're present right now, usually gets some counselor, some person who helps them find housing, helps them find a job, and all of that. Having talked to our immigration-related resources here, and we've had them for years, and they do outstanding work in Missouri and northeastern Kansas, is to say that, no, we don't want to overburden them in the slightest. If there is a person, if there is a family, if there is a group of people who are interested in coming here to work in the same way that we worked individually with each of the 500 Afghan refugees, we welcome that. But no, this is not some sort of pledge that says all of a sudden we are welcoming 10, 15,000 new people to try to, integrate quickly here. I understand scale and speed of things and efficiency of operations, but I don't think Kansas City can handle that burden right now.
So it's not 50 or it's not 50,000. It's closer to 50. It's not 10,000. It's not 15,000, but I guess it could be 5,000, John.
Well, did we have like $1 million for this?
Yes.
So we're going to get $1 million for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're charged by the pound.
Well, with inflation,
like right.
Sooner the better, man. Yeah. Better get this ship sailing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So if you can't pinpoint a number and you've got $1 million set aside in this fund for, these illegal immigrants to show up and, I guess, find jobs, what's the purpose of any of this? I mean, he's got to know that it's not in Kansas City's best interest, and, it doesn't really do him any good. I mean, his social media, he's getting crushed. And you might say, well, it's just a bunch of, right-wingers. No, I'm pretty confident that this is across the political spectrum. There's probably a sliver of Democrats who think this is a good idea. But most people are like, this is terrible, and we can't have it for Kansas City. But now it's full steam ahead. And why? And I want to share with you some incredible audio of some of the folks in New York City who, maybe they're next. Maybe they're coming out to Kansas City as we try to decompress the situation, air quotes. I will play this for you on the people that, maybe they're on the next train or plane or streetcar out from New York to Kansas City, in which case we are more screwed than I thought. I'll play it for you next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And bottom of the hour, John Patterson is going to be here. Missouri legislature got through school choice, and there's a lot of other things happening these last couple of weeks. John Patterson at Elise Summit, 6:35 on KCMO. You think we're getting the best of the best here in Kansas City? Let's just say Kansas City opens up its doors and the mayor gets his way, and we've got hundreds, thousands, who the heck knows? We can't pinpoint a number. People coming from New York and Denver who apparently want to work but are having a tough time finding work permits, right? Let's just say that happens. You think every single person, every single group of people that are coming to Kansas City under this hypothetical situation that may not be all that hypothetical, it may just be a matter of when, do you genuinely think that we are going to end up with the cream of the crop? People who are going to immediately enter the Kansas City workforce, fill manufacturing jobs and construction jobs that we are told we desperately need today. Or do you think there are going to be people who are going to be looking for that handout and not that hand up? This went viral yesterday, and I want to just share this with you because this is what they're dealing with in places like New York and Denver, where they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on individuals, and there's no plan on what to do with them because of the awful border policies of the President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden. Indisputably awful border policies, no ifs, ands, or buts. The mayor and I talked about that yesterday, and I said, hey, stay in Mexico worked. The stay in Mexico policy where if you wanted to come here and you're caught at the border and you're claiming asylum, you're staying in Mexico till it's time for your asylum hearing. Magically, a lot of people stopped coming. Why? Because, well, they weren't actually coming with legitimate asylum claims. But right now, you come to the country, you cross the border, you go wherever you want. The government, in many cases, will pay for you to go wherever you want. You can then get yourself on some government assistance, and maybe you got an asylum hearing down the road. Maybe. And hopefully you show up. This is from yesterday. New York City City Council meeting took place. And you've got migrants, illegal immigrants, who are complaining about the free food and the housing. I kid you not. Take a listen to this. It's about a minute. And the amazing part of this, too, is that the complaining individuals don't speak English. They're not speaking English. They have an interpreter, and they have the audacity to stand there in front of the city council and bitch and moan about how their food's not good enough, and they got to get kicked out of their shelter after 2 months.
But at the shelter, the food, my kids cannot eat the food at the shelter.
Kasuma edo men sonjino moƴƴa parce que tawi kadi horu gongol arta e kikiɗe tawa ñamete on a wawata mo ñamude.
And on Ramadan time, we couldn't eat because when you come back for the breaks, the food is no good at all.
Ko ɓe jonata men kon kadi 2 mois a yalta e o 2 mois ɗo timma yalta tawa ko ya ƴettu kadi paykoy koye fof ƴetta bagage ji ma yaha kadi winditoyoɗa ɓe naɓiran ma kadi nokkugo hara paykoy koye no jangguirde nokkugo ɗum noon fof no wondani men e sattendi.
And they give us 2 months to stay at the shelter, and then you have to go out again with your luggages and the kids and find another place. It's very difficult.
Haray ɗum ɗon vraiment hino satti min paykugan kadi janunkun mo mari 19 entre ɗon o wawali heɓude ha joni komo janga.
And also I have a kid that is like 18 to 19. Until now he doesn't have no school.
All right, the food sucks. My housing's only good for a couple of months. And by the way, my kid needs an education. Can you help me with that? This is what's happening. That's in front of the New York City City Council yesterday. That's what's happening in Chicago. That's happening in Denver. That's happening in New York. It's happening in major American cities across this country. And apparently, if some people have their way, that'll be happening in Kansas City here by about Memorial Day. You know, you can be sympathetic to anyone around the world who wants to come to America. I am. I mean, you know, we're all products of immigrants to some extent, right? But this is why you need an orderly system. This is why you cannot just do what the bozo in charge has done for the last 3 years and open the floodgates and say, yeah, it'll figure itself out. You're putting your own citizens at risk. You're spending hundreds of millions of dollars of their hard-earned tax monies on this. And by the way, you're putting these people who you can have sympathy for, as I do, in a difficult spot. Now, listen, they deserve plenty of blame, right? I mean, you know, you come here and then you're like, where's my free crap? That's not really how this works. Ben Shapiro made a great point on one of his shows a few weeks back where he noted, yes, there was basically, you know, open door policies for immigration early in the 20th century and late in the 19th century. But the difference then, in large part, was first off, there was still a process, Ellis Island and things like that. And secondarily, there was no welfare system. So you came here and, man, you better hustle. And if you don't hustle and you don't learn the language real fast, you're going to be screwed. You're not going to eat. Right? It's a big difference between that environment. And a lot of people went back. Like, you know, I remember hearing stories from my family members who came from Italy and Ireland. Some ended up going back. They couldn't find work. They couldn't feed themselves. So they literally got back on a boat and went across the pond. They went back where they came from because they couldn't make it work or didn't want to make it work or whatever it might have been, right? They had their issues. They had their struggles. It was basically like, you better make this thing work or you're not eating. Now you have people showing up to city council meetings in New York saying, hey, the food sucks. Hey, can I get a warm meal around here? And by the way, you're kicking me out of my place after 2 months. What gives? Thought you guys were, an honest, welcoming country. What's this all about? Come on.
How dare you?
I mean, it's crazy town, right? It is. It's nuts. But this is what's happening in major American cities. And we've mostly avoided this here in Kansas City. But now, the mayor's basically said, hey, over here. His hands up like he's in the back of the classroom. Hey, we'll send him this way. It's like, no, this is not what Kansas City needs. Kansas City's got its own problems right now, right? Can we pave Warnell Road, please? Can we get the homicides under 150 a year? Can we take care of the folks that we've got to take care of here in this town today? Can we do all that before we start going down this crazy road? That's what we need to be thinking about in Kansas City. Because I also believe there's a snowball effect to this as well, which is that if you end up in a situation where Kansas City starts getting some attention, hey, we'll take folks from Denver, we'll take folks from New York, come on in, this is going to be great. Well, word starts to get out. People get caught at the border. Where do you want to go? Kansas City, where they got that football team. Yeah, we'll go up there, John.
It's like a high school party, right? Hey, my parents are going out of town. I got 6 of my buddies coming over. 48 arrests later.
A couple of keggers and 48 arrests later.
Yeah, it gets out of hand.
Yeah, this is what you got. You never know what you're looking at anymore on social media. That's the problem. AI is kind of screwing with a lot of things. Like I was scrolling through social media today before the show, and there was this AI-generated photo of Jennifer Lopez that went viral. And, I mean, it was clearly fake, but for a split second, you might think it's real. But, of course, it had a community note on there from X, formerly Twitter, saying that this is an AI-generated photo of Jennifer Lopez. And I'm like, okay, phew. But it was going viral. It had, like, millions of views. So when I see this video of Elizabeth Warren, first off, I don't know what's what with Elizabeth Warren. I mean, she told us she was Native American with her high cheekbones from her pawpaw. Turned out she was 1,024th, I think it is, Native American. So, her whole shtick blew up in her face a couple of years ago. But anyway, she got what she needed out of it. She got her Harvard teaching gig. She got into the U.S. Senate, and now she gets to be a regular blowhard for nonsense. So this came down yesterday from her, and I'm like, this can't be serious. You can't be serious. But no, this was very much serious from Elizabeth Warren, saying it's time to break up Apple because of the iPhone.
Green text on iPhones, they're ruining relationships. That's right. Non-iPhone users everywhere are being excluded from group texts, from sports teams chats to birthday chats to vacation plan chats.
No, wait, hold on. Now, I've got the blue bubble, I admit. I have an iPhone. I'm not an Android guy. John's an Android guy. And we never let him live it down here.
Don't care.
I know.
Right?
Nor should you.
Yeah, I'm not competing.
Nope.
Feels like we've had a group chat with the three of us, even though we don't all have one.
Well, that's where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
We all interact with each other, even though John is a green bubble guy. So
how'd you guys like that comment? Okay, boom, Pete liked comment.
I'm just confused. I'm listening to Elizabeth Warren talk about how folks with the green bubble are behind the curve. But, John's got the green bubble, and we amazingly text each other about sports and the show and, radio and what's going on. So I'm missing her point here out of the gates, and I think she's trying to be a little sarcastic, a little funny, but it just sounds like you don't know what you're talking about.
That kind of came off as old woman yells at cloud.
Well, yes, there's a lot of that going on here, too. Let's continue with the analysis from the esteemed U.S. Senator.
They're getting cut out. Missing out on plans and conversations. And who's to blame here? Apple. That's just one of the dirty tactics that Apple uses to keep a stranglehold on the smartphone market. Apple has used its monopoly on smartphones to lock Americans into services and amass billions of dollars in profits.
Amass.
Apple even takes a cut every time you use Tap to Pay and has blocked a new app that would have let Android users finally use iMessage and get those blue texts. That's why last month, the Department of Justice sued Apple for its broad-based exclusionary conduct. And that's the right thing to do. It's time to break up Apple's monopoly now.
Sorry, I just can't help myself. Boy, talk about not knowing what you're talking about. That's Elizabeth Warren right there. Here are the numbers, just so we have the data, so I might as well share it with you. In the United States, Apple does remain the most popular smartphone brand in the U.S. It has a market share of over 60%. But is that a monopoly? It doesn't seem like one to me. And worldwide, how about this? Apple only has a 17% share of the first quarter of 2024 of smartphone sales. 17% of all the smartphones in the world are Apple iPhones. In fact, Samsung ranked first in market share worldwide at about 21%. So the iPhone is dominant here in the U.S., but it's not the dominant brand globally. But for Elizabeth Warren, apparently that's her definition of a monopoly, according to her.
Yeah, I better call and get on Liz's friends and family plan.
Must be nice to be
There
sitting
was
in the
me
US
thinking
Senate.
I had a choice between my Android and buying a smartphone if I wanted one.
Yeah, an iPhone. But no,
I never
apparently
realized I was being repressed.
No, yeah, you exactly right. See, you're not even able to realize you could buy an iPhone if you wanted, John.
Wow.
That's the problem. Mm-hmm. And they need Elizabeth Warren out here to break up the monopoly that doesn't actually exist to save guys like John Anthony. That's the whole purpose of Elizabeth Warren's existence.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have people like that fighting for the little guy, right? What would we do without her looking out for you, John? I know you need her desperately. She's got your back.
And I appreciate the story lady timed delivery that she does for It's a monopoly.
Oh, man. Where's her husband to pop in? Remember the
in the background?
In the background?
She's up at the kitchen.
During COVID, she tried to do the whole, I'm Liz on the block kind of thing, and she drank a beer in her kitchen.
Her yummy beer.
Yeah, and then she pulled her husband in, and he looked like a miserable sack of you-know-what. Oh, my goodness. That guy looked like a hostage in that video. Holy cow. Imagine dealing with that every day. Unbelievable. So there's Elizabeth Warren telling you that if you don't have an iPhone, you are oppressed, and she's trying to fight for you. My goodness, the ultimate first world problem. And I'm not convinced, by the way, the deals on the Samsung are any cheaper than the iPhone. I think it's just really personal preference at this point. What are you used to? What do you have? And what do you want to have? But I'm pretty confident if we wanted to drag John to the Apple store today, we could get him an iPhone.
Could, yeah.
Without Elizabeth Warren's help. Yeah, we could do that. But, don't tell her that because she's here to save all of us from the oppression of Apple. Unbelievable. You got to love this, too, from some of the council members here in Kansas City. They are getting in on the conversation. That's right. We really haven't heard from anybody on the city council since this news dropped on Tuesday that the mayor is interested in bringing illegal immigrants in from Denver and New York City to decompress, his words, the issues in those towns. Eric Bunch, Bike Boy Bunch has chimed in. Hey, let's get to the Bike Boy. How about that? Let's do it. Here he is. Bike Boy Bunch has chimed in on the conversation. Here he is. Eric Bunch. 4th District, I believe he is. Not to throw fuel on this fire, he writes, but we need workers in every job sector in Kansas City. We have to fill more of those openings to keep the regional economy strong. Surely the lieutenant governor knows, he's responding to Mike Kehoe, how vital the Kansas City economy is for the state of Missouri. These people are so full of it. So we need jobs, he says, and workers in every sector of Kansas City, he writes. So somehow you're going to have people in large parts who don't speak the language, don't have highly skilled not even degrees, but just skill sets. And they're the ones who are going to be filling every job sector in Kansas City. Remember, we're not talking about like people with green cards who are here. They might have studied at a local university and, they're looking to be American citizens and part of the economy. I think about the lady, our nurse who we had when we had Charlotte last month. Agnes was her name. Amazing story from East Africa. Ended up coming and studying at KU. She studied in Europe for a little bit, ended up coming to KU for a couple of years, studied here, and stayed here. Got her green card, became a citizen. She's married with kids to a man who also was here through the same way from East Africa. All their family is still in East Africa. She was amazing. And by the way, she loves this country. She was all about waving the American flag, rah, rah, America. I could get that sense in talking to her as we were kind of getting ready to have that baby last month. That's not what we are talking about here. We are talking about individuals who have fled third world countries. Now, maybe some are legitimate asylum claims, but many are not. We know that only about 6% of those who have come here over the last couple of years, per a study done by the House of Representatives, the House Judiciary Committee, only about 6% are legitimate asylum claims, meaning they're fleeing something that, they're fleeing, they're in fear of their lives, whatever it might be. 6% are legitimate asylum claims, meaning most have just cut the line. Most have just cheated the system. So you're talking about people who oftentimes are not speaking the language, huge barrier right there, are not skilled in anything that necessarily was going to be additive to the economy, unless you're talking about some of the low-skill labor jobs that, yes, are out there, and maybe some people don't want to do necessarily. But to say it's all about, helping out the economy at large in every job sector in Kansas City, like Eric Bunch is pointing out, that's BS. That's complete and utter BS. And any thinking person understands that. And for every job you're talking about here that someone is going to take, that you're going to ship in from New York or Denver, that's theoretically a job that a Kansas Cityan is not going to have and not going to get. And don't get me wrong. Yeah, there are people who don't want to work. There are people who just, they want to kick their feet up and live high on the hog with the government and the whole thing. I totally admit that exists. But if you think this is the answer, you're just being disingenuous because it's not, and I know it's not the answer. It's all about politics. But the crazy part is the pushback, much like the stadium vote a couple of weeks ago. The pushback has been across political persuasions and across the political aisle. So Bike Boy Bunch, once again, as always, is wrong.
Wrong.
Meantime, this came down from the assistant city manager in Kansas City yesterday. He was all upset. His name is Mario. I don't know who the guy is, but, I don't know if he's the assistant city manager in Kansas City, but he calls himself here an assistant city manager. And his name is Mario. And I guess he's an assistant city manager in Kansas City. Let me just make sure of this. Yes, here he is. Mario Vasquez. All right. Assistant city manager in Kansas City, Missouri. He was very upset with Fox 4 yesterday. Very upset. Why? Because Fox 4 ran the story, and the headline of the story on Fox 4 last night or yesterday morning was, Mayor Quentin Lucas says migrants are welcome to work in KC. And the backdrop that they used, the B-roll as they call it in the industry, like the video that was playing in the background of the story, was illegal immigrants running across the Rio Grande and coming into the country. So this guy, Mario Vasquez, writes here on Twitter, X, this is offensive coverage by Fox 4. Oh, my God.
Nobody cares.
Migrants arrive through a multitude of methods. Showing people crossing a river does nothing but feed stereotypes and perpetuate the notion that every migrant is here illegally. I'm bleeping incensed, he writes. I'm incensed by your stupidity. I just wrote back, OFFS, which if you know what that acronym is, you know what that acronym is. One of my faves. Yeah, FFS. I mean, I really want to say it on the air, but I really like the job too much to say it on the air. But it's just exhausting. The moral outrage from these people is exhausting. They are so out of touch. They have completely lost it when it comes to understanding, what this is really about. It's not political. It's not. Dennis is in Bonner Springs. Hey, Dennis, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Good morning, Pete. When you talked about the nerves, I travel a lot around this country, and I talk to a lot of people, and I find almost to a T, the people that are here legally love this country as much, if not more, than you and me, because they realize where they came from. And the second point is, I need 50 people that are here illegally to work a job for me, and I was told, a guy that can hook me up.
Well done there.
Weekend, Paisano.
Well done there, Dennis in Bonner Springs. Nice work on a Friday morning. That's a good call.
Show some RESPICT.
Man, oh man, oh man. That's right. Respect for Dennis there on a Friday. 913-408-7957. Oh, man. Pete, how does any of this work on the text line? Paying taxes, paid in cash, Social Security numbers. It's like, I don't know. No one has any of these answers. It's like just sit here and figure it out or something like that and hope it'll all work itself out. And that's just not how it works. It never works that way. Denver is now $100 million in the hole because they build themselves as a sanctuary city, and now they actually have to put their money where their mouth is, and it's cost them $100 million. And the estimates are that it's going to cost $180 million by 2025 when all is said and done. That's what they're dealing with. Meantime, we have a $1 million fund in Kansas City that's been set aside. $1 million. I mean, that's chump change. That's nothing. So this is one big mess, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon. It's just no.
I'm not worth your Red Lobster money?
No. You're not. Oh, Jesus. No way. Coming up, some of you tagged me in a video last night on social media of an alleged pedophile getting off the hook in Kansas City. It's gotten well over 1 million views. I'll share with you the story and tell you what I know at this point next on KCMO. Well, it's got, millions of views at this point. Let me pull up the exact number. It started exploding yesterday afternoon, and I don't know everything about the story just yet, but this guy, Alex Rosen, 4.1 million views, by the way. This guy, Alex Rosen, posted this video at 6:26 last night. And a lot of you started tagging me in it, sending it to me. And the video is of 2 Kansas City police officers who, according to Alex Rosen, and I admit I didn't know who this guy was, but I guess he's kind of like a modern-day social media version of To Catch a Predator. Who was that guy who hosted? John Hansen, who hosted To Catch a Predator. He's kind of like the social media version of John Hansen's To Catch a Predator. Remember that? They would set up these pedophiles, and then, they'd show up at this house, and they'd think that they're meeting some underage girl, and then John Hansen would come out from behind a curtain and just, totally ruin their party, and these guys would be, soiling themselves. It was actually pretty damn good television because, gosh, we all universally hate pedophiles. At least I think we all do. Nowadays, you don't know. Some people are trying to, call it something. What are they calling them now? There's some new nice name they're using for pedophiles. MAPS, minor attracted persons.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no, that's coming. But anyway, I think we all still hate pedophiles, as we should. So this guy, Alex Rosen, puts this video up. And it says here, Kansas City police just let a pedophile who's on parole for child porn walk after he admitted to them there was a child porn content on his phone. He writes here, the male officer would not even identify himself. And then he's tagging Kansas City, Missouri police, and he's making this thing go viral, and it's now got 4 million views. So I'll play the video. If you want to see the video, it's up on my X page. You can follow me there, at Pete Mundo. And I'll play it here so you can hear it for yourself.
They just said they're not taking his phone today because they said they can't seize his phone even though this guy's on parole. Here, get the officer's badge number. Get the officer's badge number. They're literally letting him go. Get this right now. Get this right now. They're literally letting this guy go. Kansas City Police is letting this sex offender go because they said they can't take his phone even though he admitted to having child pornography on it. They're just going to let him go. Kansas City Police, make sure you get the cop car on camera. Get the cop car. Kansas City Police is letting this admitted child molester go because we're acting as agents of the state when we have nothing to do with the state. He voluntarily told us this on camera. Kansas City Police right here protects child molesters. Even though St. Louis County prosecutes, Pulaski County prosecutes, Kansas City Police let a child molester go. What's your badge number? What's your badge number? What's your badge number? Be quiet. What's your badge number? What's your badge number? Officer, what's your badge number? They're letting this child molester go. Look at this. They're letting a child molester go. We're going to go to the...
All right. So that's the video from this guy, Alex Rosen. And some of you are correcting me, Chris Hansen, not John Hansen from To Catch a Predator. But I reached out to KCPD, and a lot of people hadn't really even heard about it. The people I talked to who are in the department, they were not familiar with it. But I did get this response from KCPD, the official response last night at about 11 o'clock, and I'll share it with you here on KCMO. Officers were dispatched this afternoon to a residence at the 2600 block of Myrtle Ave on a reported sex offense. Officers on scene received information of possible sexually explicit content involving minors on a cell phone. Officers alerted detectives in our Special Investigations Division, Vice Unit, who advised officers how to proceed. Officers recovered the cell phone for investigation and examination by detectives. This is an active investigation, and detectives will submit the results and evidence to the prosecutor's office for consideration of applicable charges. So that's the statement from KCPD. Now, listen, no one, we all universally despise and cannot stand pedophiles. But I'm hesitant to jump on KCPD here and simply say that KCPD is willingly letting a pedophile just walk. Now, we got to get to the bottom of it, but I'm very hesitant to simply just sit here and blame KCPD for any of this. Remember, the Fourth Amendment is still a thing, right? The Fourth Amendment that protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures by the government is still a thing. And just because one guy is yelling about how you've got child porn on your phone, even if they have prior convictions, while there's a way to access their phones and their computers and their laptops, and we should, if they are reasonable accusations, another guy taping on his cell phone who might be doing great work trying to catch pedophiles cannot be enough at this point to keep somebody arrested. There's got to be more, and maybe there was more. There's apparently a full, video that has got to be seen. I have not yet watched the whole thing. I just haven't had time since this broke, late last night. But I am always going to be hesitant to just rag on KCPD in this situation. Now, if we find out this guy is scum of the earth and is exactly what the allegations are, and Gene Peters Baker doesn't do a lot about it and acts swiftly, then we got another problem with the prosecutor's office, who is not just going to be somebody who is sympathetic to, hardened criminals, but also apparently pedophiles. But let's give it a little time and see exactly how that plays out, John.
What's the guy's name? Alex that did
Alex
the video?
Rosen.
So in a related story, Alex was issued a couple of citations by the grammar police. Kansas City police are letting a child molester go. Kansas City Police Department are, not is.
Oh, man. 913-408-7957. It's 8:41. We're going to watch that thing, but I don't have much more beyond the video that exists right now. I've reached out to Alex Rosen. I was not familiar with his work. He said that he would then in turn get back to me. He sent me some stuff on social media, so we're exchanging notes right now. I do want to get to the bottom of it. We're not going to let it just fall by the wayside. However, something tells me we got to watch this thing carefully and see how it plays out. Oh, man. It's turned into a busy news week. I remember sitting here on Monday saying, gosh, it feels like it's a quiet week around town. And then Tuesday happened, and then yesterday happened, and the whole thing has continued to spiral out of control. And here we are as we roll through the morning on KCMO Talk Radio.